Big news, huge news. The team you picked actually to get to the finals, I would imagine that, you're changing that pick.
Last
and
night, I was feeling
so.
good about them, Chris. I was really feeling good about them.
Yeah, well, we're talking, of course, about the Memphis Grizzlies and their superstar point guard, Ja Morant, a guy that, if he can avoid injury, is a guy that could one day maybe be the face of the league. But it certainly won't be this year in this postseason because he suffered a bone bruise in his right knee that kept him out of game 3 last night that Rob was referring to. I'm sorry, game 4. And he will be out. He's doubtful is the official prognosis for the rest of the playoffs. Doubtful for the rest of the playoffs. Rob, I think it's safe to say he's probably out, and he's probably out certainly for the rest of this series, which now with Golden State up 3-1 looks like it's over anyway. But your thoughts?
This is just another example of, Chris, and you remember when I wrote this column that I thought this was one of the worst NBA seasons I could remember. And, I've been covering the league since '87 and been a fan of the NBA my whole life growing up, watching games from start to finish on the old Channel 9 in New York and all that, the Knicks and whatnot. But we've had the same situation continue in the postseason. I just can't get over, and I'm not being like I'm being not thinking about things that have happened in the past and just thinking about, oh, yeah, this never happened before. Players have been hurt before, Chris, in the postseason, and we ran it down the other day, right? Guys getting hurt.
Right.
When the Pistons won their first championship, Magic was hurt, and we could go on and on. But this has been incredible to me, both the regular season and the playoffs. And we're talking about stars, Chris. It's depressing from that standpoint. I know it's 3-1 now, but I want to see Memphis at full strength. I want to see what they can do.
What did you think last night? Like you picked them, which was a gutsy pick,
and I said
it looked like most of the night you might be right. What were your look? They showed you, Rob, why they were 20-5 without Ja, and it's because as great as he is, and look, they're not better than him. They need him if they're gonna ever go.
No, they need him, right?
But they are much better without him defensively. And last night, they couldn't put the ball in the bucket for sure. But my goodness, the defense, and I know I'm not saying Golden State didn't miss some open shots, but the defense on Memphis's part was tenacious.
Yeah, I mean,
it's better. The stats all show they're way better defensively without Ja, who's arguably their worst defender.
Third quarter, Chris, the Warriors had 62 points.
38 in the first half, Rob.
Right.
First time since the 2016 finals when, of course, they lost the 3-1 lead to the Cavs. So, yeah, look, the series is over, though. Do you disagree with that? I mean, they're not beating them 3 straight. Yeah. I think it's ending in the next game.
I can't believe it. You know what I mean? Given what the situation is and what's happened, I don't know how I could look at them and think they're going to win the next 3. So, yeah.
Right. All right, so you brought up something interesting, right? And I will say this, and I think this speaks to what I would say is how great a shape the NBA is in that you're absolutely right, Rob. The injuries from Kawhi Leonard to Damian Lillard to Anthony Davis to now Ja Morant and so many others in the post. There's no denying that injuries have been huge. Chris Middleton's out in Milwaukee. But even so, these playoffs are still great. Like, these playoffs are still exciting. Golden State's resurgence. Phoenix, will they get it done with Chris Paul? And they're obviously in a battle royal with Dallas and their star, Luka Doncic. Miami, at least we got Embiid and Harden there. And they're, now that series is knotted with Jimmy Butler and the Heat. And then, of course, Boston, Milwaukee is a flat-out war, Ali Frazier type battle. So I think the playoffs this is in no way do I think this is one of the worst NBA seasons. I mean, in terms of injuries, yes. But it's still a very exciting postseason to me.
Yeah. But I'm going to say this. I hear you. But I'm disappointed. I want to see some of the best players play and playing those
course.
games. That's what I'm saying.
Of course.
The games go on, and other people will have to fill in. You know what I mean? So, it's
But
not
they
like,
don't have to be exciting.
No,
We've
I
had
get
more
that.
boring. We've had some boring postseasons where people were healthy.
But
Like
this
this
is
good.
But this is disappointing to me. Just how many guys and how many big names. That's
no
just
doubt.
me. I'm just.
I mean, what would the Clippers do if healthy, right? I mean, all these. I agree.
How
with
about
you
the
on that
Nets?
front.
And if Ben Simmons could have played, I could just go on and on and on. I mean, Kawhi can't stay healthy, and Ben Simmons is hurt, and now Chris Middleton in Milwaukee, and we could go on and on and on. And the big star from Memphis, the reason we'd want to watch, and it's no knock on the rest of the guys, but it's Ja, and we don't have him.
He's
now.
the only exciting player on that
Right.
team. There's no question about that. Well, let me get to this point then. You bring up that's interesting because you mentioned it, Rob. All the injuries, and we've talked about baseball with the pitchers. What do you think can be done, if anything, look, some injuries are just absolutely unavoidable. There's nothing you can do about it. That's always going to exist in sports. But like you said, Rob, we're seeing more than ever.
It seems like that to us, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I think, like, Rob G, check it out. I think last year they had the most all-stars out in the postseason, and I think this year may be surpassing that. But check that. It isn't our imagination, Rob. There are a lot of injuries, whether it's regular season, postseason. And yet we've talked about it. Nutrition is better. Weight training is better. Travel on these chartered jets is better. The commission, they're load managing, not playing as many games in general, not playing as many minutes in general. Why, Rob, do you think these players, these super athletes who are in the greatest shape athletes have ever been in this country, are getting hurt so often? And again, baseball and basketball. Football is football. I don't feel like I see more injuries in football. I feel like it's pretty much like it's always been in football.
There's always been a ton of injuries, but it
Right.
seems way more with we've seen so many pitchers in baseball. You know, Jacob deGrom is one of the best pitchers in the game. Can we watch him for a full season? No. And it's no contact, nothing, Chris. He just pop. I feel something. You know what I mean?
Right.
And stuff like that.
So I'll share with you a few of my thoughts. I think, and these things might never change. I agree with the doctors, and we've had a few on this show, Rob, who have said that the athletes are not, because of load management in basketball, they don't practice as hard as they used to in basketball. And in baseball, they're very cautious with the pitchers. I don't think these guys are building up their bodies are building up the durability to handle the stress and strain that they put on their bodies when they're going full bore. So if you don't practice as hard in basketball and then you get out on the court and you're going all out, I think that sometimes you give way. Your body gives way because hasn't built up that durability. That's not my opinion. We've had doctors on here, Rob, who've said it, and I would agree with that. And I also think at the lower levels, Rob, I think they're playing too much. I think in baseball they're throwing too much year round.
The kids, Chris, they're pitchers
kids,
like
absolutely
like when I played now and you played. If you were the star shortstop and the best pitcher on the team, you played shortstop every game and you pitched every time.
Because you could only pitch, 6-7 innings a week.
Exactly. That was
all
all you could pitch. They wouldn't allow you to do it. And now guys only pitch, Chris. Kids having rotator cuff surgery, all kinds of stuff that you never had. Who's only been a pitcher? I've never heard of that.
You're right. It's crazy. And I also think, Rob, in basketball, I think they're playing too many games in AAU. Who knows how much
6 games a weekend, eight games in a weekend.
Absolutely. And who knows what type, like the pressure these kids are putting on their bodies and their muscles at young ages is unprecedented. Unprecedented. Like you said, right, they're playing, that's no exaggeration. They're playing 5-6 games a weekend and they're playing year round. Their bodies don't get a chance to rest. It's not like, obviously some kids still play 2 or 3 sports, but so most of the kids are specializing. And so when I used to play, we'd start off playing football, then I'd go to basketball, then baseball. Every switch in the sport, Rob, you will work new muscles. So you'd be sore. You'd be like, I'm in shape. I just finished football season. But you'd be sore when you started basketball season because you're working different muscles. And same thing with baseball. Now they're working those same muscles year round as freaking 13 and 16-year-olds. And I just think, Rob, that their bodies are a bit worn down as they get to the higher levels.
And let me give you some numbers here. You ready? Last year, Chris, 9 All-Stars missed at least one playoff game. That was the most in league history. This year, there have been 7 so far, but that's not including Jamal Murray or Kawhi Leonard, who didn't play at all this year. So those are the other 2 guys.
So
they didn't play at all.
For sure.
And then, or Paul George, who missed a playing game. So that would, if you had those 3 guys, that would have been 10 guys who you would consider all-stars who are not playing in the postseason. I mean, it's incredible.